Welcome to Yar's Tutorials. Today we're going to look at Hamlet, play by William Shakespeare, and I hope to give you a bit of a summary of what the play is all about. On a dark winter's night, two guards, Bernardo and Marcellus, were on sentry duty in the Elsinore Castle in Denmark. They see a ghost-like figure walking the battlements. The ghost looks like the dead King Hamlet. It appears for a short time but does not speak. Then it disappears. The guards ask Horatio, a scholar and a friend of Prince Hamlet, to come and see if the ghost will speak to him. Horatio agrees and waits for the ghost to appear, but the ghost will not speak to him either. Horatio gets mad and confronts the ghost, but still the ghost will not speak to him. Horatio wonders why the ghost appears. He decides to tell Prince Hamlet about the ghost because of the fact that he looks like Prince Hamlet's father, and he's hoping that the ghost will talk to Hamlet. After the death of King Hamlet, his brother Claudius very quickly married Hamlet's wife, Queen Gertrude, who was Prince Hamlet's mother. Claudius also inherited the throne, the kingdom, and all the riches through this marriage. Hamlet is so disgusted by the fact that his mother had married his uncle Claudius that he goes into a deep depression and wishes he was dead. Horatio and two guards convince Prince Hamlet to go and see the ghost. This scene opens with Polonius, who is chief advisor to Claudius, his son Laertes and his daughter Ophelia, who was Hamlet's girlfriend, having a little conversation. Laertes despises Hamlet and warns Ophelia not to trust him because he says that Hamlet doesn't love her. Polonius and Laertes are concerned about Ophelia's romantic involvement with Prince Hamlet and warn her that it will end in disastrous consequences. Polonius also gives advice to Laertes, who is leaving for Paris. He gives him fatherly advice and encourages him to live a life so that the people will not judge him badly. As Laertes leaves, Polonius warns Ophelia to end her relationship with Hamlet. Ophelia agrees not to see Hamlet again. Hamlet, Horatio and Marcellus wait in darkness for the ghost to appear. It soon appears and beckons Hamlet to follow it. Horatio and Marcellus try to restrain Hamlet from going with the ghost, but Hamlet follows it. The ghost tells Hamlet that he is indeed his father's ghost and that he was murdered by Claudius. Claudius poured poison into his ear while he slept in an orchard, and his blood curdled until his body was a vile and loathsome crust. King Hamlet had his life, his crown and queen stolen all in one go, and he died without having a chance to pray or take the last rites, so that now, instead of being in heaven, he is suffering in purgatory. The ghost instructs Hamlet not to do anything bad to his mother, and not to think bad of her, but orders Hamlet to seek revenge on Claudius. When asked about it, Hamlet refused to tell Horatio and Marcellus what the ghost had said. He forced them to take an oath never to reveal what they had seen, and never to comment to others if they noticed anything odd about his behavior. Prince Hamlet's emotional turmoil over his father's murder has left him in a visibly agitated condition. He is determined to devote himself to avenging his father's death, but because he is thoughtful by nature, he delayed doing anything, but went into a deep depression, which some members of the court have interpreted as madness. Claudius and Gertrude were worried about the prince's erratic behavior, and they attempted to discover its cause. So they hired a pair of Hamlet's friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to watch him in the hope that they can learn what's troubling Hamlet. Claudius is suspicious that Hamlet may be aware that it was he, Claudius, who murdered his father, and wants to know what Hamlet plans to do, if he does in fact know it was him. Polonius thinks that Hamlet may be driven mad with love for his daughter Ophelia, because now that she has decided not to see him anymore, this could be driving him insane. So Polonius agrees a meeting between Ophelia and Hamlet, and Claudius agrees to spy on Hamlet talking to the girl. Hamlet is very nasty to Ophelia, and he orders her to enter a convent and declares that he wishes to ban marriages. Polonius is convinced that Hamlet's love for Ophelia is the cause of the madness. Claudius thinks, though, Hamlet seems definitely mad, but he does not seem to love Ophelia, so he is worried that there is something else that has caused Hamlet's madness. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern try to cheer Hamlet up by telling him that a group of travelling actors are coming to Elsinore, and Hamlet gets an idea to test his uncle's guilt. Hamlet decides to get the actors to perform a scene copying the way Claudius murdered his father, so that if Claudius is guilty, he will surely react to the scene. When the time of the murder arrives in the play, Claudius leaps up and leaves the room. Hamlet thinks that this proves his guilt and decides to get his revenge on Claudius. He goes after Claudius and finds him kneeling down praying. Claudius admits to himself that he was the one who killed old Hamlet and begs for forgiveness. But Hamlet believes that killing Claudius while he is in prayer would send Claudius' soul to heaven, so he decides to wait for another time to kill Claudius. Hamlet is still in the depths of depression, and he goes to confront his mother Gertrude, who was in her bedroom. He did not know that Gertrude had given Polonius permission to listen in on their conversation and had told Polonius to hide behind a tapestry. During the confrontation, Hamlet tells Gertrude how bad she really is, and she is frightened and screams for help. Hearing that, Polonius calls out for help too. Hamlet thought Claudius was hiding behind the cloth, so he drew his sword and stabbed through the fabric, killing Polonius. Hamlet continued his rant at Gertrude, telling her how much better his father was compared to Claudius, and urging her to leave Claudius. The ghost enters again, and gives out to Hamlet for taking too long to get his revenge on Claudius. Hamlet sees the ghost, but his mother doesn't, so now she thinks he is completely mad. Claudius is frightened by Hamlet's madness, and fearing for his own safety, he orders that Hamlet be sent to England at once. Claudius has given Rosencrantz and Guildenstern sealed orders for the King of England, demanding that Hamlet be put to death on his arrival in England. After Polonius' death, Ophelia goes mad with grief and dies by drowning in a river. Polonius' son Laertes, who had been staying in France, returns to Denmark in a rage. Claudius convinces him that Hamlet was to blame for his father and his sister's deaths. Horatio and Claudius receive letters from Hamlet saying that they are returned to Denmark because pirates attacked his ship en route to England, and they captured him and they sent him back to Denmark. Now Claudius knows that Hamlet did not go to England. He concocts a plan to kill Hamlet and make it look like an accident. Hamlet does not yet know that Ophelia is dead. Claudius, Gertrude, and Laertes come to Ophelia's funeral. Laertes jumps into the grave to give Ophelia a last hug, and only then does it dawn on Hamlet that it is in fact Ophelia that they are buried. He starts swearing that no one loved Ophelia as he did. Hamlet jumps into the grave as well and starts fighting with Laertes. Hamlet tells Horatio that he'd stolen sealed orders from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and he replaced them with orders to kill both of them on their arrival in England. Claudius invites Hamlet to have a fencing match with Laertes, and Hamlet agrees. Before the match, Laertes poisons his blade so that if he draws blood, Hamlet will die. As a backup plan, Claudius decides to poison a goblet of wine, which he will give to Hamlet to drink if Hamlet scores the first or second hit in the match. The sword fighting begins, and Hamlet scores the first hit. Claudius offers him a drink from the poisoned goblet, but he refuses to drink from it. Instead, Gertrude takes a drink from it before Claudius can stop her. Laertes succeeds in wounding Hamlet, although Hamlet does not die from the poison immediately. Instead, he gets mad, and they both throw down their swords and start fighting with each other. In the scuffle, they exchange swords, and Hamlet wounds Laertes with the poisoned sword. Gertrude collapses and says she had been poisoned. Laertes confesses to Hamlet that he poisoned the sword and they are both going to die. He blames Claudius for setting the whole thing up. Hamlet then stabs Claudius with his poisoned sword and forces him to drink down the rest of the poisoned wine. Claudius dies. Laertes dies, saying that he is sorry for what he has done. Hamlet tells Horatio to tell everybody what has happened, and then he dies. A prince from Norway arrives to meet Claudius, and when he sees that all the royals are dead, he claims the kingdom for himself. Act 1 summary. First of all, the king is dead before the play even begins. Claudius marries Gertrude. Claudius was King Hamlet's brother, and Gertrude was Prince Hamlet's wife. The king's ghost appears and tells Hamlet to get revenge for his death. Hamlet starts acting strangely throughout the second act, and he plans to trap Claudius. Hamlet rejects Ophelia. The actors mimic Hamlet's death in the hope that it will prove Claudius' guilt. Claudius is indeed proven guilty. Hamlet doesn't kill Claudius because he's in prayer. Hamlet does kill Polonius because he thought it was Claudius behind the tapestry, but it was in fact Polonius. The queen thinks Hamlet is mad, mainly because he sees the ghost and she doesn't. Ophelia dies of grief because of her father's death, and she drowned in the river. Claudius and Laertes plot against Hamlet. Claudius wants Laertes to kill Hamlet. They have Laertes and Hamlet have a sword match. Both are poisoned. Gertrude is poisoned. Hamlet kills Claudius. Now, some famous quotes from Hamlet. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. This is in Act 1, Scene 4. Neither a borrower or a lender be. Act 1, Scene 3. This above all, to thine be own self be true. Act 1, Scene 3. Brevity is the soul of wit. Act 2, Scene 2. To be or not to be, that is the question. Act 3, Scene